Pastor McGrady, you're on.
Let us pray. Father, as always, we thank you. We give you glory, praise, and honor tonight. We thank you, God, that you watched over us through the night, through this entire day. Father, we pray your wisdom, your knowledge, your strength be with these appointed elected officials tonight. Father, that your will be done. We thank you, Father. We bless you. In Jesus' name I pray. Faith believing. Amen. Amen. So I'm standing. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yes, sir.
Since you're up there, Cliff, discuss the surplus of 30 outdated Samsung desk phones along with the servers and cabinets.
Yeah, approximately between 25 and 30 Samsung Falcon phones have been replaced along with 2 servers and 2 server cabinets. Giving estimates off of eBay, $400. It's roughly $4,200 $4,212 if they're sold for the maximum amount that we can sell on either Municibid or Gov Deals. So we have a new phone system in place. It's been in place approximately a month. In place. After we got all the kinks out, we don't have any problems. So the reason this Samsung's had to be replaced because they don't sell them anymore. There's no replacement parts. If anything were to break from the phones to the servers, it would just be we'd be putting new wine in old skins.
So you're thinking, because we have this obsolete system, that we're going to find somebody dumb enough to buy it from us?
That's the shot. That's the shot.
Okay.
That's what we're going to put on Gov Deals and Municipal.
Well, our experience has also been that these individual handset units usually go between, as I said, over $200 a piece. And there are those that are still holding on to them, trying to make Band-Aid repairs. So there's a very good market for it.
Any questions? Okay. Kathy, time clock, multi-year contract.
Good evening. Tonight I'm presenting you with an option for our Time Clocks Plus, which is the time system that we currently use for employees to clock in and out. It's a computer-based online system that we use. The officers have the ability to clock in and out on the phone as needed, and then the employees clock in and out on the desktops. Currently, we're on just a year-to-year contract, and Time Clock Plus reached out to us to let us know that every year they have gone up. But this year, based off of costs and expenses and everything, they're going to be doing a 12% cost up. So we are currently at, right now, with the users that we have, we currently are at 41 users. But within the next, as of today, we have already bumped up to 42, and within the next 2 weeks, we will be at 45 with the addition of some new employees we'll be having. Our current cost right now is $43.27. As of December, that cost for that 12% bump will go to $48.46 per user. Estimated on the future hiring that at least we'll be doing, we'll be close to 50 employees. So Time Clock, in talking with them, they suggested that we look at a multi-year contract. And the most interesting one was the 7-year contract, because if you look on the colored sheet that's in your attachment, the 7-year plan, first of all, it starts us off at $44.56 for the very first year, starting in December, and we will be already at $48.46. So already that's a cost savings of approximately $7.95 per user going right into this new contract. What they're planning to do for us, and based off this invoice contract, is we will get 55 users for the price of 50 users. So we'll get 5 free. So it reduces our cost per user the first year to $40.51, up to 55 users. The best part of the 7-year contract, if you look at the last 3 years, these are guaranteed discount uplifts. The first 2 years, we would have the 3%, then 2% for the following 2 years for year 3 and year 4. And then year 5, year 6, and 7, we are guaranteed with no uplift costs. So we will be literally making, if we stayed on a year-to-year contract, in year 7, our estimated cost, if they did a 12% increase each year, we would be at $95.70 a user, versus what this contract would keep us at in year 7 at $47.76. If we ever go over the 55, we would be able to add additional users based off of the current pricing of that 7-year contract, whatever year we have to go above the 55. So we would be locked into this pricing for the 7 years.
Any questions?
I think it's a smart move.
Just one question. Are you saying that if we go above the 55 users, that each additional user would still pay the cost per employee?
Correct. So on the chart here, the color
Yep,
one here.
I got it.
So on year 4, our cost is $47.76. If we had a number of 56 user, that 56 user would cost us $47.76.
Okay, that was the question I had.
Yeah, so, right, so any additional users, it would be the cost based off of the current contract, not off of the year-to-year like we currently are now.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Kathy.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Jackie, discuss the FY24 year-end budget amendments.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
In front of you, as well as in your packet, is last fiscal year's budget amendments for ending 6/30/2024. But basically what it is the general fund revenue came in more than was budgeted. We budgeted $4,048,506. We received $4,746,000. That's a difference of $698,000 to the good. General fund expenditures came out of the budget with the exception of Camp Hornet. And that was due to the fiscal year. We get some revenue that is in June and then some that's in July, so it kind of all washes out at the end of it. The amount does not include the transfers in that we had to allow for the sanitation trucks. We got 3 new sanitation trucks. So I think we transferred into sanitation 788,000 total, and we had budgeted 159,000, so we need to up it by 629,000, and that coming from cash reserves. Confiscated funds, we didn't have anything happening in confiscated funds, so that's a 0. Hotel motel, the revenue, we budgeted 212,000, and we received 237,000, and that's an increase of 25,505. Our hotel motel expenditures also increased, but that's also because the more we receive in revenue, the more we actually have to pay out to our 501c6s. So we can't really project that until we get our revenues in. The increase is also due to the July 4th event. Both of them was in last fiscal year. One was on July 1, one was in June 28th, 29th. So that was 2 events for the July 4th, as well as the New Year's Eve event. So that's kind of how come it looks like we went over by more than what we actually did. The ARPA amount that we received, we have to recognize the revenue at the time that we expense. So we expensed $305,000. That was for the Metromont property and the internet at home at Leggett Park. So we could bring in the revenue for the exact expenditure amount, which again was $305,782. We received some grant money. The grant was for the Chief got, which was for the tasers. and then Kathy got some health and wellness grants, so we expense both of those accounts. The current year for SPOS, the 2023-2029, was we budgeted $1,500,000, we received $1,970,000. That's an increase of $470,000. We budgeted $1,500,000 in that fund, and we spent $261,000. So, we're also doing good there. In the water fund, we made a minimum amount in our water fund. Revenue was, our revenue was $108,000, and our expenditures was $70,000, and that was a difference of $38,000. But that really isn't completely accurate because water does not pay any salaries. So, there you go. And then sanitation, for the most part, sanitation is holding its own. We budgeted, for the revenue, we budgeted, what did we budget? For the budget, we budgeted $250,000. We received $297,000. That was a difference of $47,000 to the good. But we also had to bring in some cash reserves from general fund to pay for the 3 trucks. Any questions? I hope not.
Thank you, you did a good job.
I'll also take the opportunity to point out Jackie, among the other managers that we have done a very good job of both accounting for the revenues that we take in, that would be Jackie and Tracy, keeping us up to date on those things, and then all of the managers managing their expenses very well. I'll point out additionally that had we not engaged in the startup for sanitation, we would not likely be touching, or at least not as much, the budgeted fund balance that we had already worked into the budget, because we estimated what we would take in revenue was going to be less than what we knew the expenditures would be. So you use the rolling fund balances from previous years of cash reserve to present a balanced budget to the council, and then you adopt the balanced budget. Had we not done the sanitation startup, there would have been very little cause for us to dip into those cash reserves that we did budget to use. So that is also a very good thing. And then rolling into the fact that sanitation appears to be holding its own at this time. And usually, I think at the outset of the sanitation department, we determined, and we even said that it would probably take anywhere from 2 to 4 years before we started seeing sanitation be a profitable, actual business expense or business practice as an enterprise fund. I'm not saying it's ahead of the game because I'm always waiting for something else to happen, but so far it is looking good.
Okay, thank you. Tracy. Discuss fees, usage fees for city facilities, Melissa.
Okay, so I asked for this to be added to the agenda because when we established these usage fees, I don't believe the new council members were part of the team. However, I was approached by several people wanting to use, to provide services at our location in our city, and they are seeking places. So I came to you all to see if we can reconsider some of those fees. I spoke with Bob. Bob and I were talking about maybe creating some categories. As it stands now, it's for nonprofits. So at this time, nonprofits are able to use our events plays for, I think it's a nominal fee of $10 per hour, is $20. So we were approached by a young lady, Ms. Berkeley. She was going to team up with a doctor from CDC, a educator from our county who owns a STEM program, wanting to provide STEM program for our students who are located in our city. However, thank you, Tyrone Griffin, for taking that on. They have found a home. However, there are still organizations, agencies out there that are willing to bring services, needed services to our city at no cost to us. And I wanted to explore maybe just revisiting what we've established, because it's limited at this time for 2 hours, and her particular event was 3 hours. And so because of that, we would not have been able to accommodate unless we create some new provisions. And so I want to leave it up to you guys, and you had some great ideas, Bob, and I'm hoping that you still remembered what we spoke about.
Well, one of the things that we talked about is whether or not these organizations that want to use the facility, whether we were going to be sponsors or get recognition of being a sponsor to their organization, which might be a way to either alleviate or change the fee structure if we become a sponsor or we're designated as a sponsor. And that was one of the things I suggested, is maybe eliminate the usage fee if we're considered a sponsor.
Now, can you kind of like give an example and walk us through that? So not to put you on the spot, so say there's an organization that is intending to use or wanting to provide a service. We would eliminate the fee amount, however, if we sponsor them, we are waiving the fee. As a sponsor, like an in-kind sponsorship?
We'd have to work that out. I don't know that we could actually waive it, or would have to be a fiscal donation as a sponsor to them, and then they turn around and pay us back for the usage of the facility.
I understand.
I don't know the legal issue there, but if it's something that the council decided that we wanted to be a sponsor to this type of program, then we could be using our sponsorship to cover the expense for the usage of the facility.
I like it. I see you shaking your head, but I could see a lot of people asking for sponsors.
There'll be a million people knocking on our door.
That's how you go pick and choose
Right.
who you let sponsor or not. I mean,
Right now,
Well, you'd have to look at what is the activity.
Bob, I'm just trying to, it's going to open the floodgates.
it is.
It's not- yeah, that's just because you might.
I want you to know that right now at the chamber that are members, there are 49 nonprofits. But are you also taking into consideration, so say they go to the event place, or say they go to Gray's Mill. We're losing because Public Works is going to have to make sure grass is cut, trash is put out, trash is picked up. It's not, hey, here's the land, go use it. We're going to have to take care of the employees that are going to have to do all this stuff too, to get it ready.
So this particular
They should be taking
discussion,
care of these properties anyway.
They do,
No,
but however,
There's a setup and a breakdown fee and an immediate cleaning fee that goes along with it.
yeah.
with all due respect to everyone, we're talking about the events place, and then we'll move on to the Gray's
okay.
Mill, only because so we can keep it,
Okay.
I think it'd be easier to get through the discussion if we focus on one at a time. The first,
A quick question, because the events place is already available to nonprofits for
Right.
$20 for 2 hours, Monday through Thursday.
Right.
For 2
You're
hours.
trying to waive that.
Well, I think we were talking about two different things. What I am saying, I think, is a simpler approach, not limiting, but having provisions in place for usage of the events place. If we have it right now at 2 hours for $20, that's, but it's limited. So I would say no more than 5 hours, but if it's $20, that's $10 per hour. So continue, I think that nominal fee is feasible. I think it's reasonable to provide that. If someone else wants to sponsor and carry, which was one of the options that we gave to that organization, however, but that's,
Increasing it from 2 hours.
right. Well, no, not limiting it 2 hours. She did one a Saturday.
And we don't offer that on Saturdays because we have regular rentals on the weekends. So then they wouldn't have a place to do their,
Well, if you weigh out what,
Consider it.
and I understand that, so how I look at it is what are we providing? What are services that are going to be more beneficial to our constituents, to our citizens? Collecting on rental fees when there are other rental areas that are established to be actual rental facilities, or allowing agencies, nonprofits, organizations to come in and provide services that our students, our citizens are in need of. For example, 77%, you guys heard me with this all the time, former teacher is going to always think about our youth. So 77% of our students here are classified as economically disadvantaged. this particular agency or organization or group of volunteers were willing to come in, provide all the supplies for 3 hours, but with our provisions, it only limits it to 2. It restricts it to 2, so with that, which is why I wanted to revisit. However, Larry down the block wants to rent this facility. Okay, that's great for Larry's family, but look, we're reaching 50 youth students that are underserved, or whether or not they're underserved, they are our youth, or if it's a senior citizen. We were approached by a gentleman that I met during a networking event at the Chamber of Commerce. He was going to offer our elderly some technology-based sessions, learning sessions. He was going to provide everything, he just needed a location. Now, if we have that provision to say, hey, we charge $10 a minimum, I'm just asking if you guys would consider extending it and thinking about what is more beneficial to the people that live here. Because as we noted, most of the people that rent our facilities are not even from the city of Hiram. Those particular programs that are going to come in are going to help our citizens, whether it be the elderly, whether it be veterans, whether it be anything. It's a free service. We don't have to foot the bill. We're just providing them the space at a nominal fee because of the gratuity, what is that, gratuity clause or law?
Yes, the gratuities clause of the Georgia Constitution prohibits the government from offering things for free when the government does not receive a substantial public benefit in return. Otherwise, you have to charge. It's not enforced strictly all over the state. We all know that. We can find examples of that. But nonetheless, that's what the Constitution says.
And which is why, prior to you guys, we came up with maybe with you guys, with the $10 per hour?
Well, why don't you just do the 20 for nonprofits for the event place for 2 hours, Monday through Thursday, and any additional hours, $10.
I like that.
And,
I like that.
Who's going to vet these programs coming in? I mean, Eric and I can put together a little thing and say, hey, we want to go in there and do something, but.
I guess we would have to do case by case as what we've been doing with the usage of our facilities. The same kind of vetting. Do we vet programs over here when they use the Gray's Mill? Are we vetting them?
You all approve of it.
We approve of
have
that.
to approve it.
So the same process would be applied to that.
What I'm gonna say, if you go from a $300 usage fee for nonprofits only at Gray's Mill to $20 or $10 an
No,
hour.
we're still at events place.
At the events place, for anybody, your list, and I would imagine you considered that at a council meeting, so you may have 10 requests at that council meeting, just in those folks.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that.
Okay.
Is it strictly nonprofit? Because what is an agency? They don't have to be a nonprofit.
Correct, and that's the other
So why
part.
are you opening up to agencies also?
Because they're bringing services that are well needed in our city. Based off of what we said about the gratuity clause, if we can provide the facility and we're providing services, I know the government's job is not to take care of the elderly, not to take care of veterans, not to take care of our youth. However, we can play a pivotal role. We could just allow them to facilitate. We're not, it doesn't cost us, but the usage. We're paying for electricity. We're paying for the utilities we run anyway.
Albany County has a lot of those services that they offer, and they're also available to citizens of Hiram. And they have transportation that picks people up and brings them to and from these events.
So, speaking of that, 3 years ago, the Boys and Girls Club were dismantled abruptly, and there was 200 families impacted, and because of that, those students are now, those children are unsupervised, and they are latchkey kids, which can create all kinds of issues, problematic issues. We do have throughout the county what is called after-school program, but it's very limited, and it's for those families that can afford it. So there are certain programs that they have out in the county, but it's some not accessible to all. There are some parents that won't be able to transport, but what I'm trying to ask is if we can consider increasing, I like Doris's idea, instead of $20 and capping it, if you need it for additional hours, use it for additional hours. And then to reconsider.
At a cost of $10 an hour.
An hour. So you're saying 2
But
hours
only
max.
nonprofit. So from the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., if somebody needs it for 4 hours, 2 of the hours are at $20, the other 2 hours are at $10 each, so their total would be $40, but only for nonprofits.
Okay, and so we would deny people that are bringing free services to our constituents?
Only for nonprofits. You have to cap it somewhere, Melissa.
You're going
You
to
just can't
open a
open the floodgates.
floodgate.
So do we, and so the HOAs, they come in, they rent our facility, that's more beneficial to our city than it is to provide services that our citizens need?
What services are we talking about specifically?
Well, specifically, I said the STEM program, that was a three-hour program.
I spoke with Steve Barnett, the superintendent of the Paulding County Schools. They have a STEM program in each and every school. It's not a full-scale program, but they have some set STEM things at every single school in Paulding County.
So I beg to differ. As a former educator here in Paulding County, there are 2 STEM certified schools out of 33 schools. The other schools, STEM is embedded in the curriculum, so it's a hit or miss. They get it built into their lessons. It's not a formal STEM experiment or experience. It is not the same. And that is why I'm just saying, can we consider the needs of our citizens when it comes to our structures? We have so many structures. We continue to acquire. We have acquired real estate. We can offer these programs, and it won't cost us anything except the usage of the building. I understand we have rentals. How many rentals, and that's what I'd like to know, how many rentals have we had this year on Saturdays and Sundays? Because if it's at a minimal and it's out of city, people out of our city, then we're not using it for its best interest, using the facility. So I know this is all, I didn't ask prior, but I will, follow up with that.
That would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
All right.
What
Discuss-
about Gray's Mill?
Oh, Grace Mill. Grace Mill, so as we re-engage the engineer, we know that this would be a temporary offer to nonprofit organizations. I understand the for-profit organizations. I think we should consider the nonprofit. Doris, you and I spoke about the fees and maybe not waiving, but
Not waiving.
adjusting.
Adjusting the fee.
Adjusting the fees. As it is, the grass, trash is already the city's responsibility, so allowing, right now, we have padlocks on our parks for several reasons, but we open them up when there is a check coming to us, so I thought maybe we can revisit the fee. We have Walk Out of Darkness, which is the suicide prevention awareness event. And we had several nonprofits that would come to us, but the $300 fee, I was just asking if we can just reconsider adjusting and decreasing it.
When we talked, you said this would not go into effect till the beginning of the year, so I hope you're still saying that, because if not, you better get your checkbook out to write for the nonprofits that had to pay $300 this year.
Yeah, we were in agreement, that was your idea, and I thought that was a sound idea, that we would have to kick that in the following year, as we already rented out a facility at that, with that.
$300.
Yeah, $300. So
So are you talking about eliminating the fee?
No, no.
What,
No, we said that it's $300 that it was due for Gray's Mill, plus the $500 damage fee. For a nonprofit, Melissa wanted to do that in half. Now, I did talk to the county, so for nonprofits, if something is $500 to rent, a nonprofit pays 50%, they get off, so they would only pay $250. So that's,
Gray's Mill, there's nothing besides nonprofits. There's no
right,
place for.
that's what I mean, but
that's
to
all it is
me,
for a nonprofit, that's the
Right.
fee. Nobody else can rent it.
right.
And remember, that $300 fee doesn't include lights, restrooms, trash receptacles, power, usage of outlets. It's basically the grounds. And I think it's a good time to revisit that, especially with all the organizations that are coming and putting in the hard work, and it would help them with these.
But will our people have to put out the trash cans and
No,
stuff like that?
it's in the contract here.
So they're
in
going to
the-
have to bring their own trash, and then what are they going to do with it
That's
when
what,
the event is over?
So the Rosenwalds, you can ask Mr. Tyrone Griffin, when you had your Juneteenth celebration, did you have to provide your own trash cans?
Yes.
Yes, because my kids volunteered and picked up the trash around, so
So then
yes.
what did you guys do with the trash bags?
They have to haul it.
No, we actually, well, we don't with the bus, we don't know where we put it, actually we put it in the dumpster by the church, I'm sorry to stand up. We put it by the dumpster, or in the parking lot.
At Sweet Home.
With their permission?
So, yeah,
Or without it, one of the two.
The other church.
Oh, at the camp. Okay, there's the difference, not Sweet Home, at our property. Okay.
no, and then it is one of the terms in the agreement that all litter must be cleaned up and removed from the facility. So we are already covered by, those provisions if we wanted to decrease the cost or adjust it. I think that would make us more of a place, we embracing these organizations or nonprofits that are bringing that value. And we're not covering the cost or the expense to do such. So that's another, at this time, I think we have a total of 4, well, Kathy has been adding events with the wellness. So we now have the wellness, we have July 4th, we have the Red, White, and Boom, we have our Christmas, so we have a total of maybe 4, max 5 events in our city. These bring, this, Ivy Caps, you've had something at our facility, I think. No, that was prior. I'm sorry, it was Jessica with Out of the Darkness. That promotes tourism. People are coming to our city when we have those events, and we're not footing the bill for those events. It's just providing the land, and that's only temporary because of eventually we're going to develop this park.
Well, have you decided on a price?
I wanted the team to do that.
300. That's a nonprofit price.
That's what we have, Mayor, that's what so if that was, well, that would defeat the purpose of me talking to you guys. It's already at 300,
Yeah,
so why not 150?
because I don't think that's a fair price. The price we set for nonprofits is 300. Any place else, whatever their price is for anybody, then the nonprofit gets 50% off.
Correct.
This is specifically a
Nonprofit.
price.
Correct, but we are our own city, we don't have to do what the other cities are doing. We can transcend and do what we need to do for our city. I think 150, and for those of you, I mean, Derek, what do you think? Or Tiffany, or Bob?
You can't do
You're
it.
going to open it up.
Oh, no, okay. I thought this was discussion. Well, what are your thoughts?
Well, what I'm thinking about is if you rent the entire Grays Mill Park, there'll be some nonprofits that may not want to use the whole park. So I think we need to put some thought process in, are you going to use the whole park, like the July 4th celebration, or are you only going to use a section of the park?
Okay.
Because right now it's divided up into what I believe 3 sections.
Yeah, but who's going to be over there to supervise what they use and what they don't use?
Well, the gates are locked up to the upper park area.
Well, we're talking Grays Mill Park, you're talking inside the gates.
Right.
How did you come to the 300 figure? Is that standard or?
So the
That
three,
was established by the council.
no, the prior council wanted to charge $500. So I advocated and said that was pretty unreasonable, considering you can rent so many other areas in this county that provide much more than just grounds. And so we were able to come to, it was a compromise, and then we landed at 300. And since we now have a new body, I wanted the input from the new body and see if you guys would consider, I know Doris was open to reconsider, adjusting or considering adjusting, considering it. I'd have, and that's why I said, it's so hard to get in touch with everybody. Everybody has a life, so I figured discussion nights would be the appropriate place to do so.
Well, if you look at what the county's doing, and when a nonprofit uses a park, they only charge them half of the $500 fee, that's $250. And we're charging $300 right now for strictly nonprofits. So if we rolled it back to $250, we would be at the same price as anything local to this area. And might make it a little bit more enticing to use it here, but they're going to get the same price wherever they go.
Or we can be competitive and bring it down a little further.
I like
Could,
that.
yeah.
I couldn't hear you, Tiffany.
I was just saying.
Wasn't there a time that we were not charging anything?
What?
Wasn't there a time that we weren't charging anything?
You never used Graysville for anything.
How about the drive-in movie theater?
The drive-in
That was,
used
they
it.
used it for several months,
Do you remember what they,
at no cost.
They paid a
No.
special event permit fee.
Yeah.
And
Well-
you'll remember also, they're part of the reason we had this discussion way back
Yeah.
when.
Right.
No, I was just correcting the fact that there was activities there at no cost. I understand the rationale for going into it, but I'm
Special
just,
permit fee they pay.
but everybody pays a special event permit fee, whether it's 300 or 100. What we're talking about, it was used at no cost at a particular time. And we are the ones that decided to charge. Thankfully, it wasn't at 500, we got it down to 300, new bodies here. I like at least what you're coming with, Bob, saying 250 is reasonable because it compares, and I love what you're saying, is that let's be more competitive. We don't have to follow behind what the county does. The county offers a whole lot more, they also charge property taxes. So we don't have to always compare ourselves to the county.
I don't think we were comparing, I think we were
Or
just stating a
referencing.
fact that they do this.
Okay,
That we
I
weren't
misunderstood.
following them, but this is what they do, because I just talked to David Justice today.
Okay, I misunderstood. But yeah, since we are our own city and we are the governing body and we're the body that makes, creates the budget and numbers, we can come up with a number that we feel works for our citizens.
$300.
I don't agree, that's why I brought it to the table. So let's start working with the other room, 250. She said it's not, let's be more competitive. Mayor, I know where you stand, I know you said 300.
Well, but, see, you're talking about being competitive. We're not going out actively recruiting people.
I did not say be competitive, I said I liked her idea.
We're not going out for competition.
No, we want to serve our citizens.
Right.
Right. And serving our citizens, we have to think about the financial impact it has. And turning people away that would want to be hosting things in our city, promoting tourism for us. We would bring people in by having these events, and guess what? We wouldn't have to pay the expenses to put it, we wouldn't have to have Kathy working all those long hours to put another event on. This event would be put on by other agencies, and we're just giving them a better rate at renting the soil, the ground.
I did do a look-see for 2023, just to throw it out there. We had the suicide prevention walk out there, farmer's market, the police department versus the Mason softball game. Here, try this. Red, white, and boom, Juneteenth, trunk or treat, faith and blue.
Right.
Just as an idea for you all of what happened in 2023 at Gray's Mill.
Well, but that was.
No, I'm
city.
talking about city events. For the
That's for
city,
city.
no, the city only has 4 events. With
She just, well,
Juneteenth is not our event.
no,
It occurred at Gray's Mill under the current.
Correct. It's not a
Right.
city, it's not a
She's
city-sponsored.
just telling you what events
No, but that's what
occurred
she's
there.
asking. Oh, I didn't ask for that, but I thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, Doris, we were talking about city
Yeah.
functions. We have 4. With the, no, I'm sorry, 6, because our police department.
right.
The police department's initiatives, their efforts, they provide our trunk or treat and the Faith in Blue. However,
Right.
as the city, which I know we include our police department, but I'm saying us, we have 4. And this would just help us promote some more. So, do we discuss, or you guys? Bob said what he had to say, and Tiffany, you said is it competitive, and you say thinking that, okay. Sir?
Yeah, I'm still thinking it as well.
Okay. Fair enough.
I could live with 250, but if you guys decide to go any lower, I would have to be against it. I'm serious. You're gonna,
I think 250.
when this gets out that, hey, Hiram's gonna let all nonprofits use this, you're gonna be surprised
Yeah,
what's
sooner
gonna
or
come
later
out.
start, Occur some costs as far as usage, damage, anything like that. So in other words, we'll start regressing as far as something, so I'm okay with 250. I mean,
Now, that's a start. And another thing to consider is that we can always revert to whatever it is that we want, as we have done in other areas. So if this probationary period, we give it a year, hey, you know what, it's cumbersome, this is way too much, we took on too much. We can always readdress that at another council meeting. So it's not like, oh my God, we made a decision, we're stuck with it, we're not.
Well, this will not take effect until beginning of January 2025.
And what are your concerns if we reduce it too low?
We're going to get used and abused, to be very honest with you. Like I said, there are 49 members. That's not saying that's the total nonprofits within Paulding County or even Hiram. I'm saying there are 49 nonprofit members with the Chamber of Commerce.
So just limit to the nonprofits in Hiram, Paulding County, Powder Springs.
She's opening it up to all nonprofits.
No, we discussed for Paulding County.
What you saying?
No.
Yeah, but that's not what
I
you
didn't hear
just
that.
said. That's
I'm
why.
sorry, no, all nonprofits for the Gray's Mill. We were talking about nonprofits from the county, from the Paulding County.
Just the county?
Correct.
Okay, because that's not what it sounded like when
I
you were talking.
apologize. No.
Because he even got the same
No.
idea as me.
I apologize that I was not articulate. So no, just county.
And I would need details on what a Paulding County nonprofit is. Are you saying where their address is based on maybe the Secretary of State's office, their 501c3 or C6 letter from the IRS? We're processing the paperwork, so I'm going to need to know what is a Paulding County nonprofit.
So if it's a nonprofit, they would have paperwork to show that they're a nonprofit. They're filed with the Secretary of State. So they would provide those documents.
Not all filed with Secretary of State. That's an LLC or corporation. So they may have their 501c3 or C6 letter from the IRS. Do you want me to use that address? Because oftentimes that's just the mailing address.
Or an attorney's
That
address.
can change, because those letters are old, because
Right.
they rarely get a new one.
Okay.
So I would need guidance.
Jason?
Well, there's the IRS has a website where if you are a recognized IRS 501c3, C6, you're listed on the website. That website is searchable by address, so that is one way to determine whether or not you are a nonprofit recognized by the government and where you're located. That's one idea. I use it a lot. For instance, we use it in the hotel motel tax world. Are you a 501c6? We can quickly find whether you are, whether you're not, whether you're a C3, and whether you're current. So I found that to be very helpful. And it's an easy resource to use most of the time.
We don't currently do that. So the 300 is for any nonprofit. We don't currently limit it.
So how do you verify the process? What is your process when it's a
You get their
nonprofit?
501c6 or C3 letter with their application for a special event permit.
And if they have that, that means they're already listed on the website? Am I getting that right?
I'm talking about for the county. You said only a Paulding County nonprofit. How am I determining that is my question.
I think Jason answered that question. He said there's a website that you can verify the address. Is that what you said?
Yeah, but that ain't.
You verify the address, it's listed with the IRS. Now, I'm for instance, I'm looking right here, right now at the IRS database. West Cobb Youth Athletic. It is it's presumably a 501c3. It's got an address of Hiram, Georgia. I don't know whether that's
True or not.
Yeah.
See, I could have an address.
And you've got to understand additionally that zip codes do not necessarily pay attention to your city boundary.
That's
Correct.
right.
There are 301 zip codes that reach all the way down to I-20 in Cobb and Douglas.
So what would you recommend? How, because this is new to me, I'm not sure how to vet the background.
Vet the business, place of residence. I mean, the IRS would be, you would think, would be one that we could look at, but you would have to actually look at the address and where it actually exists.
Physical location.
What if I moved and decided
Right.
I just bought a house and had my hand things to
Then
change
this
over, but I want to do
becomes-
something.
This becomes the building of additional processes that administration
that's
has to
gonna
go
be-
through to do this. I'm not saying that we can't, but it becomes more complicated,
Then it's worse.
more layers laid on top of it.
Well, and just to clarify, it's just the reduction to 250, that's what you want to offer to just Paulding County? And then the others pay the current 300? I want to be, because I mean, if we're talking about $50, it's
Yeah.
$50. So
I understand what you're
I hate
saying.
saying that out
No,
loud, but.
I get it. That wasn't my
I could see us
recommendation.
going on for another 20 minutes about it. So
No.
if it's any nonprofit for $250, and then if you all want just Paulding County, then somebody will have to figure out
How to do it.
Okay.
Staff is going to figure that out.
All right, I'm so sorry, I thought this would be like a 10-minute. So let's say all nonprofits, we'll verify how you've been verifying, we'll open it up, we'll leave it on a probationary term for about a year. If it becomes something that we cannot handle, we readdress it and we'll change things. And I'm saying $200, I think $200. Like all that change for $50?
And you're opening up to all nonprofits?
Yeah,
at
let's see how it
200?
goes for a
No.
year.
The original option was
I've changed my mind. If you're opening it up to all nonprofits, that could be West Cobb, it could be up from Smyrna, it could be anywhere. My answer would be no.
We would
at
be
200.
lucky to attract people to come to the city of Hiram that's promoting tourism.
Sorry.
And now that we have Old Town Hiram, you know, specifically going out, Old Town Hiram Business Association, they are working on billboards to attract, so they can use our hotel motel dollars to market these events that are going, whether they're from a neighboring county or not. That's something, a benefit that we're having, it brings value. But we can go with the majority of the council, just, let's see, what can we do?
We need to make a decision and move on.
All right, voting members, do we vote? We're not voting, we're just talking about trying, okay, so I guess we'll follow up after. I think we discussed this. I think, what is that, Bob? We put it on the parking lot? This one here, the parking lot? Just park this?
Table it.
All right.
Table
I was
it.
trying, whatever your friend said at the retreat, I was just,
Well, I was going to put it on new business. When you
Yeah.
make a motion, how to make a motion, not a table.
sounds good to me. But are we okay with the events place? Did we kind of come with a consensus with the events place?
With the event place for nonprofits, 20 plus $10 for every hour over 2. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with
Monday through Thursday.
Get that?
Well, that was one
That was
person.
I'm good with that.
Sorry, why can't we do Friday or Saturday?
We do have
Yeah,
other
other
rentals that pay a lot more
Well,
money.
before we make that decision, shouldn't we look at the usage on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays and see how many people, and if they're from the city of Hiram, and then determine what brings more value to our citizens, not people that are coming over here to get a cheaper rate of a facility. So can we,
Why, you're bringing the nonprofits in at a cheaper rate from everywhere?
but they're bringing a value to our folks here.
What value would they bring?
It depends on, okay, so what value does the Walk Out of Darkness? It's creating an awareness for suicide, and it's also bringing the community out. That's a value, would you not agree?
I agree.
Okay, so if we had a value such as Delta Sigma Theta, I see a member of Delta Sigma Theta, if they come out and do a community program, that would be a value. Okay.
Community program.
Something that we need. Tutoring services, that would bring a value. Elderly, teaching them technology, that would bring a, there's so many, show me how you guys want to work towards this, not, because I just feel like ambush, like you guys just don't want to.
We didn't ambush, I'm just saying.
I just feel like I'm fighting
You asked
for,
about a nonprofit, I said
bringing-
for, if we take the event place, I'm fine Monday through Thursday. I'm fine with the nonprofit using it at $20 for 2 hours and $10 for every hour. I don't have a problem with that.
okay, thank you.
But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, at least let the city make something a little.
We're not in the business to make money.
But no, but then Tiffany's saying we're
No,
going to be
we're not.
competitive,
The
so make
government
up
is
your
not supposed to
mind.
be trying to make money
We're
off
giving
of.
away free.
No, we're not doing that either. We're here to
We're gonna be
facilitate, no,
one or the
no.
other.
No, we have to operate our city, but we're not here doing rental facilities because it's gonna put money in our pocket. Rental facilities should not, we should not be in the rental
We're not
business as
making
a
money,
government.
we're trying
I
to
got a
cover
great
the cost.
idea. Why don't we
It costs us
just
to-
start bulldozing Grace Mill?
Put it down under new business. Discuss meeting procedures, Jason.
If y'all don't mind, I'm gonna get where I can see this screen. All right, last work session. Following your retreat, I think where it was facilitated by Rob Hosack, Rob and Melissa got together and they put together a draft idea for some procedures for the council meetings. We presented to those to you last month as just, hey, this is a starting point, and I took the comments that you all made from the last work session, kind of refined it down to this PowerPoint here to say, hey, here's a refinement. This is just for discussion. This is still a concept draft, because at the end of the day, I think the idea is perhaps maybe after another month, I'll have an ordinance drafted that will set out what your new procedural rules for the council meetings, what you would like them to be. So this is a draft, and look, I know this, every year that goes by, the city gets larger and larger. Y'all's responsibilities grow and grow, and there is becoming a gradual need for more procedures on how we operate the meetings. I'll give Jody some kudos at the Planning Commission meeting. He managed a capacity Planning Commission meeting room and 2 overflow rooms in a 3.5-hour contested hearing. And he did that very well because there's a lot of procedures in place as to how people are going to present and how they're going to do so orderly and not speak over one another. I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I'm just saying these procedures help with that. So with that having been said, I'll start with this, assuming that this button works. And we're going to press it again.
Did I turn it off?
We did not.
Aim it over here.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Let's see. Forming the agenda. How do you make the agenda for these meetings? All right. For any proposed agenda item, the proposal out there is that we're going to submit this proposed agenda item to the mayor at least 7 days prior to the meeting. That way it's going to come in, and it's going to come in an orderly fashion so that staff can work on getting things ready to present to you at the work session. So 7 days prior to the meeting, it's going to come in. After that 7-day window has closed, the mayor will have discretion to add additional things to the agenda that come in late, for emergency reasons or for something that's of vital importance. The mayor will have that discretion. When you arrive at the meeting, well, let me back up. You as council members under the Hiram City Charter, you have the authority to propose an ordinance in the middle of any meeting, all right? My suggestion to you on this is that it should be a written ordinance, all right? So you have that right under the charter. It doesn't have to be on the agenda, but if you put the time and effort together to throw a draft ordinance together, it can come up at the meeting. That's a charter right, and that's not going to change. Yes, ma'am.
So that's just an ordinance. So I couldn't get up and say, Mayor, I want to amend the agenda and add X, Y, Z to it.
Not under this proposed procedure.
Okay. I just wanted
Correct.
to make sure.
You have the authority to change your procedures. This is just one proposed model to follow.
Okay.
All right, agenda packet. So this agenda gets put together. When do you get it? City manager's goal in the proposal is that when possible, they're going to get that work session packet to you the Tuesday before the work session. So ideally, you're going to get it an entire week in advance to review it. And I know we get to these meetings and we have a lot of conversation like we just did about issues. I would highly encourage y'all as the agenda comes in. I mean, one of your functions here, y'all are legislators. You're the city legislators. Y'all lobby one another during the course of the week individually. Weigh things out, pros and cons. Where do I want to take this? And figure out kind of which way you're headed. So when you come to the work session, you've got some idea of where people stand and who needs to be convinced otherwise, or maybe some people just aren't going to agree with the others, and that's okay too. That's why there's 5 of you. That's why there's an odd number. All right, so you get the package the Tuesday before the work session. And then when we roll around to a meeting, we've got a discussion and vote process. First thing is going to happen is that I'm going to press this button and the words are going to pop right up there on the screen. Boom. All right, let's try that again. Mayor introduces the item. The mayor's already doing that. He's calling out the agenda item. All right? When the item comes up, particularly at the regular session, the work session is a little more fluid, a little more flexible. The council member is going to make a motion on whatever that agenda item is. After that motion is made, the mayor's going to ask for a second. We've seen this happen before, where if there's no second, the motion dies. And that's the end of that motion. All right, so it's a introduction, there's a motion, there's a second, and if there's a second, we get to a discussion. You'll have a discussion about whatever the motion is. And you know, I know that this seems basic, but we technically don't have this procedure in our ordinances right now. And I'm going to suggest that you put a process in place so that we can follow it, and that's the law for the city. All right, when the discussion is up, then you take your vote. And that's I looked at Robert's Rules of Order last week because Paulding County Cemetery Preservation Commission, which hadn't met in 25 years, said it was governed by ordinance under Robert's Rules of Order. On Amazon, I pulled up Robert's Rules of Order, and it's 860 pages long. They don't need something that complicated. We need introduction, motion, second, discussion, vote. And that's the basic process that I'm recommending that you start with. And in essence, we do that, but this will formally put it in an ordinance. All right, council discussion time limit. This is just an idea. 10 minutes. All right, 10 minutes. Who keeps the time? The city clerk keeps the time. So you're discussing something. When 10 minutes is up, the city clerk says, time. All right, what happens at that point?
Question.
All right, upon reaching the time limit, keep you in suspense.
Well,
Oh,
before,
yes, ma'am.
before
Go
the
ahead.
suspense. Okay. Is that 10 minutes for all of council? Or
I'm
10
going to
minutes?
come back to your question.
Okay.
All right, because that is a great one. Let's see here. All right. Upon reaching the time limit of 10 minutes, all right, mayor introduces the next agenda item if we're in the work session. All right, that discussion is over. Or if a motion is pending, we're in the regular session. Once we hit the 10-minute mark, y'all take a vote on the motion because the 10 minutes is over. Or if the 10 minutes is over and y'all want to talk about it more, or somebody wants to talk about it more, you can make a motion to extend the discussion. If there's a motion to extend the discussion, then there needs to be a second on that motion. Once there's a second on that motion, you vote to see, we'll extend discussion for 10 minutes. I'm not advocating that you do this or have to do this. This is one idea of moving discussion along. All right, so 10 minutes, you could make it 15 minutes, you could make it 20 minutes. It's entirely up to you. You don't have to have a time limit. It's entirely up to you. And Doris, with that having been said, can you ask your question again?
Is that collectively 10 minutes for the whole panel or 10 minutes per person? Because I know there are times I can go on for 10 minutes. I definitely know Melissa can go on for more than 10 minutes. And if she's not got her 10 minutes in and we're sitting here going, well, wait, I have something important I want to say, we're cut off.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we adjust that?
Good question.
That's a great question. As I've thought through it, it would be for the whole group, but if you ran out of time, you just extend the time.
And how many times can you extend
as
it?
many as you want.
Okay.
There's no need to have
You
a
could
time
extend
limit.
it for 30 minutes if you wanted to.
Then there's,
No need-
just like,
then there's no need to have a time limit.
limit.
There's, look, and if you don't, I don't represent a board or a commission that has a time limit amongst council members,
Okay.
all right? These are just ideas, and if you don't like that idea, we won't put it in there.
Well, I feel every one of us up here, including the mayor and everybody, we all have important things that we would like to say. And like I said, if I go off on a tangent and I'm going on and on and on, and Melissa's sitting there biting her nails because she has something important she wants to say, I think we need to be equal. And I really wish that we would put it in there that our mayor, even though I know he runs the meeting, but he also has input into what's going on with our city, and I think he should be able to speak up about things.
Okay.
I know, but he usually just tries to sit there and move the meeting on fast.
Because everybody else spends too much time talking.
Okay, I've said my 10 minutes.
All right, hey, but this is,
Got 2 minutes
we're in
left.
the work session, and this is for y'all's consideration as to what you want to do. So after tonight, you know, what I sense is maybe we don't want to do a time limit. If you feel strongly about it, one way or the other, I'm sensing don't do the time limit, but if something changes or you got another idea, let's talk about it and get this thing moving. This is a start of procedures. As the months and years go by, you can add to this list and you can take away from the list. All right, talk about that.
Oh, look how cute.
Yeah, I didn't set this up. Order of business, call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance, approve the minutes. Public hearings, that's kind of how we do it now. Public participation on agenda items.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about this in a little bit more detail after this slide, but again, this is the order by which you conduct your meeting. Consent agenda, and we've got old business and new business.
Oh, that made me dizzy.
And visitor business, all right, visitor business is different from public participation on agenda items. The primary thing there being one's for things that are on the agenda and one's for anything else that a visitor wants to come in and tell the council about. Executive session as needed, adjournment from either open session or executive session. I hope that y'all have found that a little helpful.
Yes.
It was.
Rather than coming back in here. Public comment. So as more and more people come, sometimes we've had this full. I think last month when we had the annexation going on, it was pretty full in here. I think that the best practice is that when dealing with public comment, once a meeting is called to order, no public comment except 3 scenarios. It's public participation on an agenda item because somebody has come in here and they signed up and said, I want to talk on this agenda item. There's a public hearing going on. That's what we had at that zoning case. Public hearing came on, people talked about it. And then finally, it's visitor business. So what this does, it creates 3 specific categories where citizens can come in and talk to you. They can talk to you about an agenda item that's on your agenda. They can get up at a public hearing because they have the right to do so under state law and city ordinance. And finally, they can tell you about anything else they want to tell you about during visitor business. So they don't have to sign up for that in advance. They just need to pop up during visitor business.
So Jason, that would eliminate us being on an agenda item and all of a sudden somebody jumping up because they would have had to speak on it prior to us starting.
Yes, okay, that's where I view the Hiram City Council as kind of in a transition stage.
Right.
Y'all are, this city's getting bigger. When people just come in and, you know, I think welcome back Cotter, okay. Sorry, the courts have said,
It's in my head now.
the courts have said that the business of a city council meeting is to conduct the business affairs of the government. It's not a gigantic public hearing. You have an agenda, and you're weighing the pros and cons of every agenda item, all right? And citizens can come in and speak on an agenda item, but they can't interrupt the flow of the meeting. And that's what these are designed to do. I know that Jody in the last meeting, Jody oftentimes has to sit there and bang his gavel and say, your time is up. That time is over. Or there's times where he says, is there anybody else that wants to speak in the public hearing? And that's their opportunity. But when that opportunity is gone, the focus then shifts to y'all to discuss and ultimately make a decision on the thing. All right, public participation on agenda items. This is just a proposal on how to do this. You've got the speaker must register at a sign-up sheet before the meeting's called to order. So there'll be a sign-up sheet out here. All right, I know you can barely hear the mayor bang his gavel, but when that gavel gets banged down, you better have already been signed up to speak on agenda items. My thought, if it's important enough for you to come speak, then you should get here on time and sign up for that.
So if somebody signs up before he calls the meeting to order, will somebody be responsible for giving it to him so they know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, typically we'll have a staffer, possibly, probably somebody over there that maybe Cliff.
I'll go down and
But
get it.
that list will get taken to the mayor.
Right. Well, okay.
All right, you need to limit your comment to that agenda item that you've listed. All right, that's just basic stuff. 3-minute time limit per speaker. Maximum of 5 speakers per meeting, so that's a total of 15 minutes. If you don't have a maximum of speakers per meeting, I mean, starts to circle, and if you've got a real controversial thing, you can spend all your time doing this stuff. And while it's important, the primary focus is the business of the elected officials in getting decisions made. You can't yield time to other speakers, and no speaker may. This is a new one. I've kind of experienced this in my work at the county. No speaker may speak on an item which has previously been the subject of a public hearing and for which a council decision remains pending. So you have a zoning public hearing. Some people get up in favor, some people get up opposed, all right? But then the public hearing, there was no vote taken that night. And so at the next meeting that this thing's been tabled to, all of a sudden you get people signing up for 3-minute shots on something you haven't decided yet. Well, the public hearing is already over. And so this is a proposal to restrict people from speaking about a topic that has been the subject of a public hearing but which you have yet to make a decision on. Yes, ma'am.
But what happens if we have a public hearing, and what happens if at the next meeting it is an agenda item to take a vote?
Yes, they would be precluded from signing up to speak on that
They
item.
would not be able to come and speak.
Correct, because the public
it's,
hearing is over.
Okay, but it's speaking on an agenda item. So how would you get around that?
This is a public hearing, you have time for public
No,
hearing.
we had the public hearing.
Yeah.
Public hearing is over.
This is,
That's
this is an exclusion.
It's over. But the next meeting we have, it's an agenda item.
Because
Right.
yes, we're voting on that.
And
then
we're
it's gonna be
voting on
agenda.
it,
I
and
understand the
so
question.
you're understanding what I'm saying. So would they be able to sign up and speak on an agenda item?
They would not.
Why?
That's a public hearing. Not
The
that.
public hearing is over. This is a different day.
But it's because the public hearing has already taken place and had their opportunity to speak then,
Oh, it's like you said,
However-
public hearing.
not during the
But
agenda.
what if they were not previously, if they did not approach the podium to speak? Maybe that's what Doris is speaking to. or
Yeah.
just-
They would have lost the opportunity.
Okay.
If you don't speak at the public hearing, then you've lost
Then you
your
can't
opportunity.
speak on an agenda item.
They can speak on a different agenda item.
But
No,
not public.
but on one, okay, now I understand. But you
Yeah.
understand where I was trying to go.
Let me use a extreme example. If you had 1,000 people that were opposed to something that you're going to take up at this meeting, but there's already been a public hearing last month, all right? That public hearing is over. I don't believe you want 1,000 people coming in and taking 3-minute shots apiece to sign up.
Makes sense.
Because that's just, they had the opportunity, they didn't take it then. But there can be differences of opinion on that.
I get it, because they can manipulate it and just
Because
come
what I
in to
have
do that.
seen happen
I can see
in
that.
zoning cases at the county is that you will get the people, they want to get a second bite at that apple a month later when it's now up for a vote and everybody's been able to speak on it already.
It was also offered balanced time to both those for and against.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that was
to an extent.
something speaking on it, if you were losing that distribution of opinion.
And the sign-up sheet would have what agenda item are you wanting to
That
see?
makes
So it
sense.
just have to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just kind of have to police the speaker sheet. All right, this may be it.
Yeah, it is.
Same ineligibility list for visitor business. That, just to recap, that ineligibility list is you can't get up and advocate for somebody running for office or some cause that's on the ballot. If you're a former employee and you're 90 days within being resigned or retired or terminated, you can't get up during that time. That is really designed to provide a cooling off period for terminated employees from coming in and give you a piece of their mind. It's nice for them to cool off before they do that. And there's if you're in active litigation or threatened litigation against the city, you can't use agenda items to speak.
That was awesome.
That's it.
Very
All right.
good.
Thank you for
I
your
have a
time.
question. So we went over input from the public, input from the visitors. So these public hearings, they're new to me. I haven't experienced many of them. However, I experienced being handed, there's like, what do you call it? Evidence being provided, submitted. I'm not an expert in running a court. So a hearing, I would hope that we have a procedure that addresses any kind of evidence being submitted. I think that should be vetted from an attorney to make sure that should even come to us. So if we can include something like that, if we do have a hearing, anything that needs to be submitted shouldn't be on the fly. It should be a part of a process. There should be some type of procedure and a vetting process. We were provided a lot of information from visitors during a hearing, and I didn't feel comfortable because I'm not an expert in those fields.
That's a great point, all right? And I'm going to say this. There's a lot of good information, so what I believe that you're referring to is what we call the rules of evidence, all right? In a courtroom, in a judicial proceeding, particularly criminal proceeding, nothing is coming into evidence unless it is not hearsay, or there's an exception to hearsay, or it's been authenticated, or a foundation is laid. Those are very strict rules of evidence. And in a courtroom, that's a good thing. In front of a legislative body, I think you want to have more flexibility with that. I think that you, for instance, if I presented to you a 20-signature petition saying these people are in favor of X, well, I've got rando people's signatures on there. I don't know if they're real. I don't know if those are the actual people. In a courtroom, they would object on the basis of hearsay, and that would not come in. But I also think that's something that y'all need to see in what you do. But where I think that maybe where I think you might be headed is, we don't need to be looking at people's cell phones. Hey, I got this cell phone video. If you have a video or an audio or photographs that you want council to consider, perhaps they should present copies of those, and those should be available for distribution. Otherwise, not looking at it. That may be an area to control a little bit, but I think you raise a good point. As an attorney, following the rules of evidence in the courtroom can be a real pain in the butt. It can be something that sometimes gets us away from the truth of what's happening because we can't see. We know something happened there, but because something's hearsay, I'm not able to see it. And I don't think that y'all are in the same type of role that you should be disregarding some of the things that might not qualify under the rules of evidence. Chief, I know you've seen a lot of times the truth of what happened didn't make it into evidence because they couldn't get around the hearsay rules, and perhaps an unjust verdict was reached.
And what I would like is if there is something that the public wants us to see, just like we said, if it's important enough for them for a hearing to sign up ahead of time or to be heard or address an agenda item, same should follow for if you want us to see something, do it prior to the hearing, not the day of, so that way we can take our time and digest it.
That brings me to another thing. When you are listening to most of your public hearings, you are acting in what we call a legislative capacity. It's not a judicial capacity. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's what we call quasi-judicial, but let's just talk about your zoning hearings, all right? Your zoning hearings are legislative. The law recognizes that y'all are supposed to dig in to what's going on, find things out for yourselves, do your own investigations, talk to people. People can come and advocate, I really like that, or people can come and say, I'm really opposed to that. That is a level of due diligence that legislative officials are encouraged to do when making a legislative decision. We all know when there's a bill pending down underneath the Gold Dome, people go down there and they lobby in favor and they lobby against, and people go, you know, they have all these meetings, and at the end of the day, a vote is taken by that legislative body based on what those legislators have received, what they've heard, what they've chosen to believe in, and what they've chosen to be opposed to. Sometimes in a judicial setting, and I'll tell you when those are when, we don't see those very often, but those are sometimes with our alcohol license revocations. In those situations, you're only going to take in what's being presented to you that night at the meeting, or that afternoon at the meeting, because those are a little bit more restrictive. Those are times when you have to limit what's being presented.
That helps.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
So I will take what I've heard tonight and start moving towards an ordinance, and my intention is not to present that until the next work session.
Okay, thank you. Discuss live streaming, Melissa?
Hi.
Hi.
We were hoping to have something more than we do this evening. I know originally it was saying we would come back in September, but we wanted to at least give you an update of where we are. So we've contacted multiple jurisdictions, multiple vendors. I reached out on the city clerk's listserv requesting folks to send Sandra what they do, who they use, things like that. Gotten a couple, unfortunately not as many as we were hoping for. So with her calling jurisdictions, I'm gonna just give you a rundown. So City of Villa Rica uses Braddock Communications for live streaming and recordings. City of Carrollton uses Braddock as well. And Sandra spoke with Steve Braddock, and at this time there's no available employees because the conflict of their meeting dates and hours. City of Dallas, no live stream, no recording. City of Powder Springs uses Above the Cloud, and I would like to introduce them. They are here. Sorry. So they came because they wanted to actually view it, to check out kind of how we currently operate. They also do Chattahoochee Hills, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So they are here. Then we have City of Douglasville. They have a community relations director that's in charge of the recordings and live streaming, so they don't use a company. And we did make a call to Westridge. They have a setup. It was a fortunate circumstance to see their setup, but it is incredible. But they are all in-house, so. And the City of Ackworth, they don't use a company. The city clerk and deputy clerk do the recordings, which we have already discussed that as far as kind of outgrowing us. So just wanted to give you that update. I'm hoping by September 30, we'll have at least 3 for you to consider, but that's where we are now.
Thank you.
Discuss future improvements, Homer Leggett Park. Melissa?
I brought that up. I just want to say thank you to our deputy clerk and our clerk for initiating launching the first social media post for the citizen engagement initiative. I'm sorry, I was just glitching. Anyway, so we received a lot of feedback, and some of that feedback was about our parks. The Homer Leggett Park the playground has been taken down. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to see that. Many people are happy to see that, but other people are asking what's going in it. Leo suggested that we do a circuit training, and it aligns well, it complements the Silver Comet Trail. This would provide people a place to work out while their dogs are doing whatever they do at the park. However, I think it's something for us to consider. The longevity, I'm sorry, I got some notes. There's longevity in the equipment, durability, so low maintenance. So it's a one-time investment. Mayor has shared some nice equipment that we can also include, but I do think we should have an idea of what we want to, what is the intended use of that area? Because I'm being asked by citizens that live here, and I don't have an answer, and I don't want to be that I don't have an answer. Like, we should know what are our plans for that park. So wanted to know if you guys have any ideas that you'd like to discuss, share. I love Leo's idea about the circuit training. Many of the feedback, so on August 1st or August 9th, I think it was August 9th, many of our citizens engaged in the post about what you would like to see in the Gray's Mill design element. And from that post, it yielded more input about our parks. And some people are concerned that and I've shared it with some of you all, the dog should have water. We should have a functioning water station for our pets, for the fur babies of our city. We make it attractive enough, we'll get more people to come in here. So I was hoping you guys would kind of share ideas and see what we can do and move forward with that, or at least have the ideas in place, so when it's time to move forward, we can.
I like the idea of this circuit workout and the water for the pets. And I think a sitting area like a gazebo to get people out of the sun is a good idea.
That's another thing that they mentioned, is our parks, we don't have anything covering our guests, because they're not just citizens, they're guests. So we should consider, I think that's a great idea. So many people said that, just to include, what would you, not an awning.
Umbrella.
A giant size umbrella.
And they just have either one large one over the area, or they have a couple of small ones.
Like
The shade, sail shades is what they call those.
We still have some of them. They're not good, because I know we used them a couple times for Red, White, and Boom.
So if you look at Lost Mountain Park has a circuit training, well, it's a skateboard park, and they have those coverings that we're talking about. So I was hoping that maybe we can submit our ideas to Jody by a certain deadline.
What are we going to do? I have a question. What are we going to do with the building that's down there? It used to be like a concession stand at one time.
I had a question about that. What I would like for us to do is reach out to some businesses and see if we could bring a business that would complement the health initiative. Like, if we have the Silver Comet Trail, then we have the workout training, the circuit training. We have your dogs, people come off of the Silver Comet Trail with their pets, they go work out a little bit under shade. And something that would align or complement that effort, something like a blended shop, something
Jody,
healthy.
they tried.
Jody, you want to
twice.
speak to that?
I know.
We had two
Done that
businesses.
I know, we had the ice cream shop.
Jody?
Well, a few things that we have attempted to do there, which one was having Ira Hotberg with psychology locate there. And then, of course, Buttered Udder, which is a company out of Bremen area
Right.
that has expanded some or was going to. But it didn't work out for them either. Both of them cited similar reasons, and that's traffic, getting the traffic that they need to support the business. Not certain, I'm not a marketing expert, but I'm not certain exactly what we would need to do in order to increase the profile of the area, because it is a very visible park, but it's only visible to those that are passing along Seaboard Avenue or passing through on the Silver Comet Trail, which you would think would be a natural draw for anybody on the trail coming to get refreshments, or if you need help repairing a bicycle, but Ira was doing bicycle rental. And again, great ideas, I thought, but it just did not work for them. There may be another way of going about this, but then we've also had conversation after all of those businesses had come through, where it's possible that we would just need to advertise the space and then take, and add conditions as to what we would not allow, or be more specific about what we would allow, and then see what comes our way, and what they would be willing to pay for the space. We have utilized the space internally for us for a little bit of storage, but also it's where that front area where the concession stand is, the storage supply room for that area also is exactly where the internet connection comes in. That's where the fiber line came into and is hosted at that location. So we have to maintain access to it, even if there's a business that's there. So that's one of the competing challenges that we have, is that there's this, they want to be secure, and I'm like, well, you can be, but you have to let us in. And some of them are a little off-put by that idea.
Not only that, most of the businesses that would go in there is going to be seasonal.
Generally speaking, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know how Powder Springs is doing there with their new park there on Sailors Parkway, because they do have a concession stand that actually cooks hamburgers and meals there. But I don't know whether that's city-run or contracted.
I think it's contracted.
Is
I'm
it?
almost sure it is. I talked to the guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could we not offer incentives to businesses, different incentives? I know we don't have a property tax, however, occupational taxes are subjected to businesses, right?
They are, yes.
Could we not incentivize businesses to come in and possibly postponing, I don't know, not requiring them to pay for X amount of months, maybe just to lure people in, and then as far as being on the off-beaten path, and people don't see it, if you're on 92, maybe some signage, maybe putting signage around that, whatever sign that is, of course, leave that cost to the people that move in.
Advertising that were to take place would have to be on private property, because the only thing you can locate within the right-of-way of any of the roadways is transportation regulatory related. But if you have property, which we could possibly advertise the availability of that service, whatever goes in there on our signs, such as the gateway sign or the one over by Minster One. That would be possible, and we do have on the gateway sign property that's available to us, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot that we own outside of the downtown as it relates to 92-278. We don't have property along that area. So it would require cooperation, possible billboard use, and other methods to try to get the word out.
And
I'm not saying you can't do it, I'm just putting it out there,
Yeah.
because that's what we would be looking at.
wasn't that one of the fallbacks for the ice cream? They couldn't put a sign out on the grass for people to know they
The
were there.
conversation that I had with those gentlemen was twofold. One, they didn't see the traffic that they were hoping to see off of the Silver Comet Trail. Secondly, they tacitly admitted that they didn't really push themselves out on Facebook as hard as they think they should have. And that was just an offhand conversation that I had with them. Maybe if they had done this, it would have generated more traffic.
But wasn't there something about a sign on the grass area too?
Yeah, and we did allow them to place
Yeah,
signage
but-
on the property, but again, that's only right there. If
Right.
Anybody beyond that,
Well, it's a silver comment with the PATH
Yeah,
Foundation.
with the Silver Comet, the PATH Foundation will not allow any
Right.
signage to go on the trail, period. You can say there's food up ahead, you can say that there are, shops up ahead, that type of thing, but you cannot say, in this
Specific
case,
business.
psychology is up
Right.
there on the right. You could not advertise a specific business, right?
God bless you, 3
Thank you.
times.
So can we establish a deadline of what ideas we want to submit? Do you guys,
By either sending me an email if you want to come by and sit down and I can write down your ideas or whatever, but as far as a deadline, we're looking right now into the month of September, which means that the fall season is coming. It may be the perfect time to advertise the availability, and if it is a seasonal business, then they would, make plans to be in place the following spring potentially, or if they think that they could operate year-round, even on the reduced daylight hours during the winter, great, but I wouldn't expect that.
so since right now we are at a standpoint, we're waiting for whatever powers that be to move us forward with the sewer for Ray's Mill, can we allocate funds, or I don't know how that would work, but once we submit our ideas and reach a consensus, could we start on that project, and if so, when can we initiate that project? Do we have enough funding to do that in our SPOS
We
part?
can always develop a project. I mean, the typical expense for doing improvements is going to either be the engineering costs, and then bidding is not necessarily that, it's not expensive, it's just coordinating the effort. So we could do that, and then you would have to determine, once we got the bids and opened them, if it was cost feasible to do it. So you'd be playing with prices that you were aware of. It wouldn't be guesswork.
Okay.
And then, of course, with the input from myself and Jackie, looking at what funds are available, we can tell you how it could possibly be funded, or what it would be competing with.
Okay. Because I know we have different projects going on, so I don't want to take away from another project.
And I'm not going to jump off, and I'll talk to you after the meeting with regard to the status of the Grays Mill sewer, but we've had progress, let me put it that way.
Awesome.
Some.
Okay. All
Are we
right.
done,
Now,
children?
would you want to give us a deadline to submit?
Let's say by September 15th.
Okay.
Discuss proclamation procedures for the council.
So I added that, but it's just not for me to lead. So if any of you know the procedures,
Yeah, the
please share.
procedure is somebody presents it to the city clerk or
Okay.
to myself, and between the two of us, we make the determination whether we're going to allow the proclamation or not. It should be someone that does, provides a service for the city of Hiram, Paulding County, or if it's a national or statewide organization, like it's Law Enforcement Month or something like that, or Happy Hamburger Week or something. Clerk's Week, we vet those and we do a proclamation, and I have to sign off on them and read them.
Okay, so submit to Melissa, and then it's approved by just you?
Her and I.
I forward it to the mayor and wait for the mayor to instruct me.
So if you don't like an organization, you could just shut it down? What? It's a question. It's a
No.
transparent question.
It's going to
If it's not on a voting basis, I just want to know, I'm sorry, maybe I'm not,
It's
with
gonna-
all due respect, I'm just trying to figure it
There's
out.
no respect. You just said that.
No.
Whenever you say with
Type
all
it
due
down,
respect.
type it down. I was showing you respect. I'm questioning, I was
Whenever you say
asking you a
with all due
question.
respect, you're not showing respect.
Well,
Anyway.
you're raising your voice to a woman is disrespectful, and I don't even live with you. I don't wake up in your bed, so that's disrespectful. I was just saying with all disrespect.
But anyway,
Go ahead.
that's how we do, we've been doing that before I got here, that's what we do it.
So because it's been done a certain way, that we should not revisit it to see if there's a more effective way of doing it, a policy, a procedure? It's not in our charter.
Would you like to undertake writing a policy and procedure?
No, we have an attorney to do that. Why would I be the one to write a policy and procedure?
Because you brought it up.
We're a team. Do you guys not want to operate efficiently with systems in place that we have policy and procedure so we know how we're going to work with it the following year? Or is it just me that wants a policy and procedure for system?
I've been living with it since 2012, and it always worked. I mean, we did one for Gia. She was from Paulding County. Doc, last Wednesday or Thursday, Dr. Milton, we were all out at the press conference, and Doc Milton said, "Hey, Mayor, do you think we can do a proclamation at the end of September, beginning of October?" They provide some service to Paulding County. They're a home for battered women and children. Okay, 811, it's nationwide. We do a proclamation for them. Miss Ivy, we do it's usually, and it's not a hard procedure. If they're doing something nationwide, we do a proclamation. But ABC comes up and they want something, we don't need to do a proclamation for them.
I understand. So within the last 24 months, 15 proclamations have been signed, dating back to March 28th from 23. We have 15 proclamations. None of them have had a consensus. None of them required a vote. It wasn't until this last time that I requested for National Hispanic Heritage Month that we present Galeo, Georgia Association for Latin Elected Officials, which is a nationwide organization, been recognizing this at the state capitol. There was a lot of back and forth, and there was no understanding, and I had to continue to present and position myself in efforts to support this organization that, by the way, we are members of. During this fiscal year, we voted to become members.
Because you wanted us to. You asked us to become members.
This is a democratic process. We could have voted.
Yeah, but I meant you asked,
I
and we
did.
said, okay.
Just like I did when I invited the gentleman from Atlanta Preservation Society. He came in and he was going to, he didn't do any business here, but he was signed a proclamation because he was present, because I invited him to see what kind of partnerships in the future we could build with him, which is the same for Georgia elected, for the Galeo organization that we belong to. I don't know if it's because it was Latin-based that kind of shook some people up, but it just was a different feel since the last 15 that have been presented, signed with no consensus. Until that very time, it was.
That's a very unfair statement that you just made. My ask was, what does Galileo mean? I didn't know what the acronym was. I wanted some clarification on
And
that.
I gave it.
And Doris came up with it, and you provided it, and we went and said, we'll do the proclamation. I didn't know who they were. I simply asked for a clarification on what that stood for. So what's wrong with that?
Well, Mayor, I'm sorry, and I think what Melissa's point is and how she felt was that after Doris indicated what the organization was about, there was no follow-up, there was no response. And Melissa continued to come back and ask, and if she had your permission, what were your thoughts, and there was no response. So the reason to have a procedure and policy in place is so we know how to move forward in the future. Because
I do have to say one thing. I know why Frank didn't respond right away. He was actually had medical issue then.
It was about a 2-week conversation on the threads, though. There was multiple opportunities. There were other emails that were responded by the mayor within the same day, the following day, the previous day. But I like the fact we are here to support each other, but we're going to be transparent. This was the first proclamation within the last 2 years, 15 proclamations that created such a thread and pushback.
There was no pushback.
there was just no response.
I'm sorry, not pushback, I apologize. There was just no response. And I was very direct, do I have your support? Can I assume I have your support? Are there any objections? And that is why, unfortunately, when I attempt to communicate with my team on this device, calling, and there's no success, it's brought to the attention, this is where we are now.
And does everybody respond to you? No.
The person that was, well, when I need someone to respond, I write out their name, so.
Yeah, but if that's the procedure, needs to get permission from the mayor, and then the mayor doesn't respond, then how do we?
When the mayor's in the hospital, the mayor doesn't
Yeah.
have the opportunity to respond.
Right, but Mayor, when Melissa asked, can she assume that she has your support, and you said she shouldn't assume?
There was a
That was the
response.
response.
The response was you shouldn't assume before you make a request. The thing was, what she had said was she invited all of these people. That's why you shouldn't assume that it's going to be approved and start inviting people before you know.
Jody, did you give me permission? Because I talked to our city manager, because there's no policy and procedure in place in our charter, nor is it there in practice. So I specifically went out to our city manager, hey, manager, since this is the process, we're going over the City of Hiram Council meeting procedures, and we still don't know what the procedures are for proclamations. However, we've been handling these for several years, like you said, since 2012.
No, they were handling them way before 2012.
With no procedure in place, correct. And since there is no procedure, I reached out.
My response to you, if I can say, because I did respond and say that it was a discretionary process that is submitted to the mayor, and it's enacted by the mayor. As far as you inviting people, I will never tell you you can't. There was no permission for me to grant. I just said
That wasn't
yes.
my question. So did you not say that, I said, well, can you make sure that it's on the agenda, and can I go ahead and move forward with October 2nd? And you said yes, and therefore I explained it in the lengthy emails, in the numerous emails, in the multiple emails. Hey, well, I already got approval, so there was a misunderstanding because there's no procedure in place. So there was a misunderstanding, and a policy and a procedure would eliminate the misunderstandings. We would have a system that would operate consistently. So I misunderstood when you said it's okay. That is when I reached out to state officials. That is when I reached out to the Galileo representatives, the CEO. I was excited to share with you all that we have people that are coming, 20%. We have a large percentage of Hispanics, a growing percentage here, and I thought that would be something nice to do for National Hispanic Day. We could do something for, there's so many different proclamations that we have signed, and this one would actually benefit some of our citizens. There's a future partnership that we can have with this organization that helps Latino elected officials, like our Senator Jason Anavatardi, like the commissioner, the fire commissioner, Mr. King. There's so many, and it's a small number, but it's helping those elected officials be more efficient at what they do and meeting the needs of their constituents. And I thought, we are embracive, we're a city of civility, we're inclusive, and that, to me, did not feel that way. And that's all I was.
I think the policy and procedure would help if the mayor is unable to respond. So perhaps allowing the mayor pro tem to be a part of that discussion in the event that the mayor is unable to.
Would you like to volunteer to write the policy and procedure?
I'll volunteer to write policy and procedure. Will you help me, Jody?
Thank you.
City manager, will you help me? And attorney, would you help me write the policy and procedure?
I'll be glad. Here's the deal. Whatever the majority of the council wants, that's what we'll put into an ordinance or a procedure. I've been listening closely. There's consensus. Sometimes there's a divergence of opinions. But whatever direction that the elected officials want to give to us as the staff and the support to put together, we'll make that happen. We just need to know, because I could draft up a procedure that could get approved by the city council that vests sole authority for issuing a proclamation completely in the hands of the mayor. Or I could do it as to the hands of the city council. It's what y'all want to do, and we'll be certainly glad to assist with that.
Sounds good to me.
Can you draft one for us, please?
Whatever the majority of the council wants.
Oh,
Yeah,
so do we do that right
That's
now?
what he just said.
Okay.
Need
do
to know what
Oh, you
y'all
need a
want to do.
consensus from us right now? Okay. Do you guys consent to having a system that is
And let me be clear, you don't have
procedure?
to come up with it tonight. I'm just saying, if there's an essence that 3 of the 5 of y'all want proclamations to be a certain way, then I'll put it together in an ordinance, and if it passes, that'll be what happens.
And when do we give you this, when do we find out if there's a majority that wants to move forward in that
That's for y'all
direction?
to lobby one another
And then tell you tomorrow? Okay.
Let us know what that is.
Okay. Thank you.
discuss evaluation procedures for the council.
I added that because I believe policy and procedure is important. We don't have a procedure in place for that, although I've heard from seasoned council that it was done in a particular way, and I thought we took this off of the agenda to have it the discussion in the executive session.
I didn't take it off the agenda, and there is an executive session, so I didn't know if you wanted to talk about procedure in the open meeting.
As I say, my takeaway from all the multiple emails is that you wanted a discussion on the procedure. That
Exactly.
doesn't need to be had in executive session. What I understood from executive session was for you all to discuss our evaluation.
Okay.
So if I misunderstood that, again, somebody's got to let me know before the day of the meeting what that agenda says and take that off.
Yeah, just to be
That's
clear,
exactly how I took
Any-
it. There were two different.
just to be clear under Georgia law, any procedures as to the manner by which an ordinance or a policy may be drafted by the council for the evaluation procedure, that is to happen in open session. If there is a particular performance evaluation that is going to be performed on a particularly identified employee, that can happen in executive session.
Okay, so,
You're confused.
somebody take it up. Do we want a procedure in place to evaluate our employees? There is no procedure in place. Is that something that is important to us as a governing body, to make sure there is a procedure in place to effectively assess the performance of our clerk and our city manager?
The chief wanted to say something.
I'm sorry,
You-
if you're restricting it to that, then I was just going to comment that within, sorry, I apologize. Within the police department, we have a very stable policy that has been on our procedure manual about how to conduct evaluations of personnel.
Oh, I know you guys got it all covered, yeah.
I do think that we need something that states that yearly, whether it be January, whether it be at the end of the budget year, before everything is settled, that we need to do an evaluation on our city manager annually, and it should be at the same time each year, and also for the city clerk. But I also think that even though we all have input with forms that we fill out, I truthfully feel that it should be done by the whole council.
Well, that's in essence what we were going to do. I spoke to HR Director, to Kathy, and, well, Kathy, and we've spoken, we've met. However, we got to figure out what template to use. Let's start with that.
You
The
have two
process.
different templates.
Well,
Yes, you do.
So right now-
One is for the city manager, and one is strictly for employees.
So this one I submitted on 8/14. Look at this,
Okay.
and this is a
Well,
different.
that's not the one I gave you.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. You gave me this. There's
I gave
three-
you that one,
So these are
and-
the templates that have been floating around, Doris.
Okay. This is the
Don't
one.
peek at my numbers.
I won't look at it. This is the one that's strictly there.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, you saw the one that I got, strictly for the city manager that came from GMA. I don't know, everybody was sent it, so I
Yeah,
don't know
so-
why you can't find it.
Did everybody know which template to use?
Well, it's self-explanatory.
No. Well, so if it was self-explanatory, the majority of council would have submitted because it was self-explanatory.
I submitted it.
You submitted, and you submit, I don't want to point anybody out. 2 out of 3 counts, out of the 5 submitted because they had the understanding that the city clerk had to be evaluated. And there were 3 that did not. So the majority was not under the understanding that was not, did not understand that was, we were talking about, and all the threads, if you look through the threads, double-check these emails, it says,
Then why couldn't you
it's
find the
singular.
one I sent you? I sent you the one strictly for the city manager.
okay,
Right.
that was done.
You guys are talking about two different things.
Yeah, I did, I used yours. I used yours for
And then
this
that one-
administrator.
Yes.
Correct.
And then
The
that
mayor
one
gave me
was,
the mayor gave me this.
okay.
Okay.
I never saw this.
And this was shared during another time.
Okay,
And
and
we decided
that's
to
the
go
one.
with this. which-
That one was for city manager. That
Correct.
one is strictly for
So to make it
employee.
short, we adopt a template, use that tool annually, and how do we process it? You want to do it collectively as a group? We do it collectively as a group, or we do it individually, but we need to know what the procedure is. For example, we can all, I think the plan was, we all do it individually, and then we'll compile them, and then submit it to the HR director on these forms.
But then,
But these, it has to be policy, there has to be a procedure in place.
the HR, it's our job to sit down with them and do their evaluation.
Correct.
Have you ever done evaluations?
Not the point. So the
No,
point, no. What I'm telling you is, I spoke to the HR director. She's telling us, once we finish completing them independently, it has to be compiled, and then, like you said, one would be submitted. Where are we with the process? Because we started about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, a month ago,
Well, I'm
and
going to
it's
jump
shortened
in
2
here.
paychecks.
When we were at the retreat, we said we had to do these 2 evaluations. That's in February.
Okay.
Yep.
And then there was another executive session where we said, we've got to get these evaluations done. Deadlines passed, as you said, people didn't fill out the paperwork, didn't send it in to be compiled. So the question I have is, if we've set a deadline and somebody doesn't turn in a piece of paper that gives us their input, then we don't count it. They don't want to evaluate the person.
But wouldn't that be a disservice to the people we're evaluating?
Well,
It's a disservice to postpone it. And the
it's a
second thing that I'm gonna-
disservice to the people that, the
The second
councilmen
thing I'm going to
didn't turn
say is,
anything in.
those evaluation forms, even though the GMA sent one and we got one from somewhere else, they're ridiculous. I've been doing evaluations when I was in law enforcement for 34 years.
I did it for
You
21.
gotta make it simple. You can't make it this 3 pages long or 4 pages long and get an evaluation. You've only got certain criteria for your appointed positions. You don't have to go into the weeds of what they do on a daily basis. So I say that we come up and work on a simplified form that we eventually do. And because of the merit raise system
They're
goes
both
into
passed
August,
it.
Jody?
It's 2 paychecks.
It goes,
To affect the first payroll.
so we have to have evaluation done by July 1 on those 2 positions, is my recommendation.
I agree with you on that, but I agree that they are 2 different positions with 2 different types of questions that need to be asked.
Somewhat, but majority of it, they're appointed officials that we appoint.
But their jobs are totally
I
different.
agree.
Huh?
I agree that their jobs are different.
They're totally
We're assessing
different.
2
But
different.
it doesn't, are you evaluating how many pieces of paper the clerk handles every day?
No, I'm evaluating how she handles all the people that report to her and how she handles us.
And that's
Jody,
the
I'm
same-
evaluating how he, in turn, deals with his department heads and how our city runs. 2 different things.
No, she's evaluating people she supervises.
Yeah, but I'm evaluating how she's doing her job.
And that's the same thing we do with Jody. How he does with his job, with his interaction with the council and the people that he supervises, the department heads. It's just evaluating their personnel on the job they have. It's no different just because they do different jobs.
That's your opinion. I did it for
They're not-
21 years.
They're not technical jobs.
No, but I did it for 21 years, and you did it with law enforcement, and I did it with district managers, regionals, and store managers.
Okay, so assuming that we agree to what type of template or tool to use, we still need procedures. We adopt whatever tool it is. It needs to be completed by all members and then submitted. Now, the reason why we were short on 3 of those things and we didn't meet the deadline, the majority of the council didn't know that it was a requirement. So
That's
now,
bull. I'm sorry.
Well,
That
why?
is bull.
That's
It's talked
fine.
about
Did you-
3 different times about getting their evaluations done. And I'm going to stand up for these 2 people who have been waiting for their evaluations for merit raises.
so let's talk about that because we've had, no, we have not had evaluations in a minute, right? And when a minute, I'm talking about almost a decade, right? When's the last time you guys have been evaluated?
That doesn't make
No,
any
so
difference.
let's not, because you're calling BS on me, right?
I'm
I
calling-
initiated this process because I didn't feel it was fair that they have not been able to have merit pay to merit pay. I
That
just
is-
wanted to make sure that they had it.
That's
So don't
because-
call BS
that's
on me.
because
I
this-
initiated this process, and I stayed on it and requested and said, Mayor, what's the deadline? Mayor,
That's-
when are we gonna meet? Mayor, when are we gonna meet? And there was no follow-up.
The thing talking about is it was discussed at both positions.
Okay.
And,
to be evaluated
and I'm going
by
to say,
council.
what the
And you're saying
previous
that three
council
people didn't
did
understand, but-
prior to Tiffany and I coming on board doesn't mean they were right by not doing evaluations on these two positions. You brought it up, and we do need to evaluate them. So we
Correct.
plan to do that.
In the
So why wasn't there any-
executive
okay, so why wasn't there any
Excuse me,
follow-up?
I had my hand up. In the executive session, we said that they needed to be turned in by July, I think it was 15.
15.
I drove to Frank's house to turn mine in because I was leaving for Pittsburgh. Did you turn any in?
I
Did you?
turned mine in by the deadline, the
By
one
the
that I knew
15th.
of, but however, if the whoever's leading, whoever's in lead, whoever's on the top of the hierarchy, it is that person's responsibility to follow up. If you know the majority of your team has not submitted, then it is that person's
We're adults.
responsibility. And we're
We're
gonna do, you
supposed to
care so
know
much about
when we have
our
a
employees,
deadline.
you know what a disservice it is to have half the input, where my input would potentially help them get a raise, and then we only take the 2 or the 3, that's a disservice to our folks.
Well, then why didn't the other adults sitting up here turn them in on the deadline?
I'm gonna let
I
somebody else
wasn't
answer
aware
that.
that there was,
You were in the same executive session I was in.
I did not hear that
I
one
did
had been
sorry.
done from Melissa. And my question
I-
is, when there was lack of the submissions, why wasn't that brought up? Why didn't anybody say, we're missing
X, Y, and
the
Z.
evaluation, from Melissa?
We are all over 21. We all have jobs,
But
we all
that's
have
That's not the-
lives.
That's not the question. That wasn't the question.
Huh? I have a job.
The question is, why wasn't there follow-up from leadership?
I would like to ask Chief to speak for a second. Chief, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but you know my background, and you know that overseas I've built law enforcement agencies. Part of what I did is back office, exactly what you're doing now. Let me explain how you build an evaluation. Maybe this will help you with some of the conversation you're having. First thing you do is for each individual job, you identify KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities required of that position, and they are going to be different for each position within the organization. Once you do that, you look at their tasks that they're assigned based upon those knowledge, skills, and abilities. Once you determine those two things, then you can start to look at an evaluation, and then you have to decide how you're going to score them, whether you're going to use a 3, 5, or 7 matrix scale. And I do agree with you, Mr. Tressel, that if it becomes too burdensome, if it becomes too long and too boring and too overwhelming for a person, then it's difficult for you to do this. But one of the essential things that you're missing is you have to train your personnel to do the evaluation. You can't just say, go score them. Because what I see is exceptional behavior, you may see as, oh, they're doing their job. For example, I worked for a sergeant who said, oh, you saved 2 people in the last year, but that's what I pay you for. So you're going to get, on a scale of 1 to 3, you're going to get a 2 because that's what you get paid for. And he would look at you and say, you'll never get a 3 as long as I work as a sergeant here, because that means you're perfect and you're not going to learn. So what you have to do is amongst yourselves, sit down and get some kind of agreement as to what scoring you're going to use, what system you're going to use, and how you're going to score that system. And then what you do is you rate, and then you throw out anomalies. For example, if one member has a 1 and one member has a 5 on the scale, that can't stand. So those scores have to be negotiated. Why are you saying 1? Why are you saying 5? And remember, everything comes back to documentation and details. Because again, you have to defend this evaluation because it does have a property rights interest for the employee because they're going to get a raise out of it. And if you go in and say, I'm not going to give them that raise because I don't think they've done their job, then you have to prove they haven't done their job. So those are the things that have to be taken into account as you do the system. Every system is new and every system is going to change. And what I'll tell you is, if this is your first run at it, it is not going to be the same evaluation that you're going to use next year. because you'll find that there are some things that you're rating them on that aren't important to the job, because it's really
right.
not a knowledge, skill, or ability that you find to be of value for the organization.
So
So
do
the
you
first thing you
use
have
their,
to do is evaluate that.
do you use their job description
You
to
do
go along with?
you do two things. The easiest way to do it is something called a DACM. A DACM was developed by all people of Walt Disney, and he used it to develop the shows, the old Mickey Mouse shows. But what has been done has been transferred into developing a curriculum. So what you would do is I would sit with the personnel and I would say, okay, tell me about your day. What do you do on an average day? Well, I come into the office and I turn on the computer. Okay, there's your first identifier. Has computer skills. Can identify a computer 1 out of 3 times. Can turn one on. Has to use, Microsoft Office, Excel, Windows. So you start looking at those types of things. What else do you do? Well, I make decisions on this. I go to meetings. I go to this. I go to that. And what you do is you take those things and you post them up on a board on 3x5 cards. And then you go back and you say, okay, on your average day, when you say you go to meetings, how much time do you spend in meetings? Well, I spend X amount of time. How much time do you spend working with troublesome clients, people that have problems? So you finally start to identify what is the critical skills that you want of that incumbent in that position, given that responsibility. A DACM can be done in 2 days. Or you can pay universities a great amount of money to do it in 6 weeks or more. But it's something that can be done with someone who knows how to do it very quickly. The only thing I caution you is today, are you evaluating the people with what you have, that instrument in your hand, the things that you want them to do? Or are you evaluating them on things that are not critical to that job? Because if they're not critical to that job and they're not necessary, then you're putting yourself in an indefensible position. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
If I could follow up on what the chief said, just so you are aware, on the other end of the spectrum, the city council has 2 city employee charter appointments.
That's right.
City manager and the city clerk. Under the open meetings law, you are entitled to go into executive session and do a performance evaluation behind closed doors of those employees. There doesn't necessarily have to be a database, a KSA, a metric. You know how these people work when they're at that level. Feel free to have just a candid evaluation in executive session as to what you think they're doing well, what you think they need improvement on, or what you think that they're not doing a good job with. It doesn't have to follow a form or a metric when you're not dealing with, more than, you're really dealing with 2 employees here, not an entire agency or department.
And our charter also gives the description of what the city manager is responsible for.
All right, item number 10, Chief, discuss the price increase of the upfitting of 3 patrol vehicles.
Ladies and gentlemen, everybody else, I apologize for delaying tonight's proceedings, but there was an issue, and I'll take full responsibility on that, when we submitted the information to Ford Motor Credit Company regarding the purchase of 3 Explorers from Harding Ford. They were sent in 2 different emails, which is where I made a mistake. They should have all been in a single email to the person in Detroit. And they missed the fact that there needed to be 3 in-car video systems installed in those cars. Unfortunately, in the interim between the time that we have started this purchase and now, the in-car video systems have increased from about $8,500 to over $11,000 a piece. We have expended all of our salvaged systems. We have been outfitting cars by salvaging equipment off of cars that we have taken out of service. We have no more salvaged equipment left to put in these vehicles. So unfortunately, we're going to have to pay for new in-car video systems, which is why you see the dramatic increase from $204,000 to $247,000. That also includes 3 Panasonic tablets, which need to be installed in the cars. So what I'm asking is that you look at this with a new eye, that we're looking at financing these over 5 years through Ford Motor Credit Company for $247,000 through Police SPOS. There is money available within Police SPOS to cover this. Any
Questions? Okay. Melissa, consent agenda?
Well, we have number 11.
We're not getting there yet. We're doing the consent agenda first,
Oh.
and then we'll do the vote.
All right. Item number 1, the surplusing of the phones, I have as consent. Item number 2, the Time Clock Plus contract, consent. Number 3, the budget, year-end budget amendments, consent. Number 4, I broke it in 2, both new business, but one for the events place and one for Gray's Mill, the individual votes. Meeting procedures, I have as next work session. Live streaming, next work session. The Homer Leggett, next work session with a deadline of September 15th for ideas to Jody. Proclamation procedures, new business. The evaluation procedures, I will need more guidance.
If I may, on the proclamation procedures, should that be the next work session? Because I don't have any direction. I think that there's going to be some discussion, and then Sheldon get back with us.
Yes.
Yeah, next work
Yes.
session. All right, new business. May
We
I
were
have
still
a,
at number 9.
I'm sorry?
We were still at number 9. I need direction. I don't know what to do with that one.
Second.
Is that the
Yeah, the
Yes.
evaluation.
Next work session.
Next work session?
Yes.
And then number 10, you're voting on the moment.
All right, new business. May I have a motion on item number 11?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase and uplifting of 3 Ford Explorers from Hardy Ford in an amount not to exceed $247,000 to be funded by Police SPOS.
I'll second.
Second.
I third.
Fourth.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, going into executive session.
Another candy.
Are we going into executive session?
Oh,
Do we still need to go into executive?
I don't know. It's not,
Unless there's a need, if y'all feel that there's a desire to go into executive session for personnel at this time, then make a motion. Otherwise, I would
so what
move to
if we
item
don't?
13.
Did you want to?
Bob, I don't know what, I
I
honestly,
make a
I'm
motion-
lost.
I make a motion, we go into executive session
Is that
I
for
second.
Personnel?
for personnel.
All in favor? Okay, let's do it.
Sorry.